Alright, the reason why I wanted to get the sub box out, for one, I needed to pull the wire that was going up to the sub amp underneath the passenger seat. Now, let's talk about the future of this truck and what we're gonna do. First thing we're gonna do is clean up all the stuff that we've taken out, obviously. Fernando's already fixed the wiring on this side. There is some wiring behind the radio because it has a steering wheel control module in there that's gonna be coming out. I also need to go next door and call the customer and break him the news of what we found out. After we get that done, then it's going to be starting to figure out what we're gonna do for installation. The amplifiers, the crossovers, all that fun stuff are gonna go behind the back seat, so we'll be pulling out the back seat and building an amp rack for back there. There's room for that kind of stuff. We'll be running a power distribution system in here, so it might be a 0 gauge, haven't really decided yet. Might be 2 4 gauge, don't know. It might be 1 4 gauge, because honestly these two amplifiers are kind of small and we don't really need a big power wire. His power wire is too short. We're not going to be reusing any of that stuff. All his stuff is in a nice bundle in the bed of the truck. That's where we're at. That means it's time to just get going. So let's head over to the bench and we'll take a closer look at the stuff that we just took out and what we're going to need to do to get it ready to go back into the car properly. For a sub amp, we're going to be using this, which is the Alpine MRV M500. It's a little 500 watt sub amp. The way these brackets attach, they snap in place like this and go over the screw down mounts and the RCAs and all those speaker connectors, power connections, stuff like this. 60 amp current draw. It's a nice little amp, extremely reliable. This will do just fine as it's been doing on those two Scar Audio 10-inch drivers. Powering the speakers, it's going to be this, the FPX 4800 D-Class full-cal amplifier. Now when we got it out of the car, we didn't get the speaker wires out of it. It uses an Allen key. Now as I take these wires out and can kind of see what they've done here, they just folded the wires over and kind of stuffed them in there. As you can see from this guy, they didn't line it up with the Allen screw and the wire itself, so it just kind of cut through the insulation. This is why you would use a ferrule or some form of a connection to go into this, is so that you're actually touching the wire. This one here, where they screwed it in, is into the insulation, so the screw went in and just pushes it in, and this ball here on the end is what's pushing in there and creating sound. This is a failure at some point for sure, and this one is the exact same way. So for anyone out there that's like, why do you use ferrules? This is why you'd use a ferrule. A couple features about this amplifier: power protect light on one side, flip it over on the other side. You have 2-channel, 4-channel mode as far as your input goes. You have high pass, off, and sub for channels 1 and 2, and then on channels 3 and 4 you have high pass, low pass, sub, plus bass boost, and then the gains are also located close on the inside here to both RCAs. Now this amplifier, I believe, is about 110 watts by 4, which is plenty of power for what we're going to be doing today. Next up are the speakers that we're going to be putting into the front door. Is this guy here, which is the ES165 KX2 mid bass. I need to get all of this butyl off of the speaker. Mineral spirits will remove it, however, it does make kind of a gooey mess. If you can get it off just by simply rubbing it and or using a ball, it will stick to itself pretty well. Can't get this screw out because it's all stuck into that. Anyways, this is going to take some time. Let's also take a look at the back side of the speaker here where they did our booger soldering job. That's really awesome. So they just kind of stuck the wire through the hole, twisted around, tried to add some solder to it, and did a really crappy job. The problem with doing that is tinsel leads can wick the solder in and you can overheat them, and you can really screw up a speaker. If you don't know how to solder, for the love of God, just put speaker terminals on it and call it a day. It's not a bad thing to do. Doing this and not doing a good job is pretty bad. To be extremely careful in getting this off. I might just actually cut it and sand it off instead of reheating up the speaker. I don't know, I have to kind of take a look at it and see how I'm going to do that, are going to be the flax 6.5-inch component. Now, luckily they didn't goo up the front of this one. The only thing they did was the booger solder joints here on the back. Speakers are both flat, which is good. They didn't warp them putting them in those janky mounts. As far as the tweeters, this is the front A-pillar, this is the passenger side. The customer was complaining about there was a noise coming from this tweeter, and that was because the tweeter wasn't actually attached. It was just sitting in here like this. So the noise he was hearing was this cone tapping into this. Luckily nothing damaged the cone. Now how they did attach these was just a little tiny ball of what looks like some silicone or hot glue. Clearly not enough. The plan for these is to mount these somewhere in the back, maybe in the hole that they created in the back panel where the K2 tweeter is. I don't know how I'm going to do that because we don't have any of the pieces for this, so that will be interesting to figure out. Speaking of the back speaker, this is it here. It's just kind of stuck in. Now most people don't know that, but these speakers do actually come out of these mounts if you push really hard. If I can get the butyl that they use to stick this into here. So I'm guessing they couldn't figure out how to mount it properly. So, you know, they didn't use silicone, but they used more black sticky crap. This is this 3M Surcock. Now the nice thing is we got enough of this crap that we found that we could use this to fill the holes if we want. And then if you pull on it, the grill will come off. And so that does make this speaker a lot more manageable. And most people don't know it will do that. The thought, my thought is to put this guy like this and make a bracket that allows me to put this tweeter into here like this, and then put this back into the door so that we can cover up those giant holes that they have. I will be cleaning this up. We'll be just soaking in mineral spirits to get all this goo off of here. It'll come right off. It's kind of my plan, is to maybe do that now that I have this down to its smaller size. As you can see, it will go into this way easier, and we do have to make a bracket to get it into this, which is cool because we've actually made these brackets for this before, so it's just a matter of redesigning that particular bracket to fit this tweeter's size. So we have a plan for getting these two tweeters put in the right location. Next up is these giant passive crossovers that we have. Now this is one of those times where it's like, what I'd really like to do is just use that focal amp to power this guy here. They're both biampable, which means I can run a 4-channel amp into this because the amplifier doesn't have biamp capability. Look at this, I got this stuff on me. Oh God, it's so disgusting. Use this just to power the front speakers. Lots of power going to them, they'd sound wonderful. The problem is this passive crossover here, we don't have an amp to power these. We'd have to use the radio, which is only like 15 watts, and trying to pump the radio through something like this would just be a bad idea. That's why a lot of the times if we're going to put something like this in the front, we do a real basic speaker in the back door, which wouldn't require a lot of work. Very efficient, low power handling speaker, and that'll be super loud coming off of that radio we're going to use. In this case, that's not what's going to happen. That means I'm going to clean these up, mount these in the back on the amp rack. So we'll have, 2 pairs of crossovers back there to power these things up, and we'll run new tweeter wires into the rear doors, and the other tweeter wires will go up into the A-pillars. Lastly, the media upgrade is going to be this guy here, which is the Kenwood Axelon DMX 908S. This is one of the new models that they just came out with. It is a USB-C radio. We have a flush mount USB-C bracket from PAC, which is the USB CDMA3. I don't know where I'm going to put this yet, but if we have some place to put this, this will be the unit that goes in there. This comes with a bag of screws. It also comes with a C to regular USB adapter. Every now and then you got to use this, but if I can put a USB-C somewhere on the dash, I would much rather put that there, and then if they don't have the current cable for their phone, then they can use this until they get it. This has an externally mounted GPS antenna because it is wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Typical Kenwood power harness, the microphone. Kenwood always comes with this spacer here that we're not going to need. This is your sanity piece that it comes with. There's nothing in it. It's just so you can sit here and pop holes for a little while to, calm your nerves after pulling out a particularly crappy 911. Instruction manual, the radio itself. One of the reasons why I Simply love this radio. For one, it's a 9 series, which means it has all the 9 series tech built into it. Sounds amazing. It's nice, it's high end, but favorite thing about this particular radio is it's a short chassis. That means all that garbage that was behind that radio can get tucked up into behind the actual radio. It's not going to be as tight and packed in and just like it was before. Short chassis radios are great for that. Kenwood does a really nice job of putting everything on the back of the radio here. Let's take a closer look at it. For those of you that are unfamiliar with some of the inputs and outputs of this radio, located behind this panel here, there's a screw up here on the top. Once you remove that, your USB-C gets locked in, as well as it has the micro HDMI. This will do the Kenwood dash cam. Your mic plugs in here. Sirius XM. iData is these two right here. Your GPS antenna is this gray plug. RCA outputs are located on the side here all together. Something to note about all Kenwoods, if you've never put one in before, is it goes rear, front, sub. A little bit different than everyone else's. It's something to keep in mind. The antenna is wired off the back, which is nice. I like a pigtail. It does have AV in if you need it. That's a full AV in, means it takes a 4 conductor 3.5 millimeter jack that goes into this. That way, if for one you need an extra camera, because this will do 4 cameras, it can plug in here, as well as if you're going to do some kind of, let's say, an overhead with a DVD player or whatever you need that's AV, basic aux jack. It'll all plug into this. Then you have camera 3 located here at the top, your rear camera, your front camera, and then there is an AV in and out also. So this has multiple capabilities of getting other video sources into it, as well as your power plug is located here on the side. Cooling system is located off to here. There is a fan inside of the radio, and no, you don't hear the fan when it's inside the dash. Then you have the nice 7-inch touchscreen that Kenwood has been using for a very long time. It has the shelf here across the bottom and the big screen on top. Track up and down, attenuation, home button, menu, selection, as well as cam. And then if you press and hold the menu button, it shuts the display off. If you press and hold the selection button, it will do voice. Since they did not use a smart harness to do whatever they did, and after talking with the customer, it turns out that radio was in the car when he bought it, and the people that worked on it and put all these speakers and amps in didn't change out to a proper harness, which is kind of weird. The whole install was just kind of weird. We are going to be adding in the iData RR. Needs the RF01 harness to integrate into the car. The dash kit actually is in good shape, other than it's just dirty. I will just take this over into the bathroom, clean up all the dirt that's on here that's just, you know, from years of being in the car. Then I'll get the new Kenwood mounted into it, trim up the backside here, trim these off because I'm not going to need those the way the new radio is going to mount. We'll get to all that in a little bit. Now it's just a matter of cleaning. I have to clean all this stuff up.